Hello and welcome to Reality Check. We are live from Mumbai. Now, we drove down, long drive from Delhi to Ahmedabad and Surat to Mumbai. We were traveling through some of the biggest coronavirus hotspots in India. But when we reached Mumbai, the first thing that struck us was that on the streets, one never got a sense that this was a city with the maximum number of infections in a lockdown. I'll just move aside to give you a sense of just where we are. We're just on a street corner in Bandra, and if the camera pans, you can see there are people out and about. They're hanging about on the street corner, talking amongst themselves, and that's pretty much the story if you just pan further up the street and back as well. No real sense that this is a city which is at the epicenter of the coronavirus crisis. Now, look, it's been now almost over 50 days of the lockdown, and it's hard to keep a city of close to the population of Mumbai under this severity of a lockdown. There's bound to be lockdown fatigue, and also people in Mumbai a lot of them at least live in very, very congested neighborhoods. So it's understandable that at some point they'd want to start coming out. But it does raise a question about whether the city is really doing enough to fight the virus and whether those who are in charge are doing enough to enforce it. So my colleague Saurabh Gupta actually drove out, and he was driving through the city and he was looking at how there was traffic that's flowing on the road. Again, not really very clear if this is traffic that is permitted or people are just going out and driving and taking a risk. And he also drove through a number of police check nakas, because you do see them. We've seen them as well. As you drive around, you come across naka after naka after naka, but it's often just abandoned. There's nobody there, or there are policemen there, but they're not bothering to stop and check anybody. It's almost as if they've given up. So that's the whole point, that you see these abandoned nakas, and it really makes you wonder about what exactly is the strategy. Is it that it's now reached a stage where the police are simply throwing their hands up, or is it something else? This is what Saurav sent us. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Temporary checkposts like the one you see behind me were set up by the Mumbai police to enforce the lockdown when it began. But now, these checkposts seem to have become drive-thrus with hardly any checking. We drove from Lower Parel to South Mumbai and we weren't stopped even once. The police say they're checking people only whom they suspect of breaking the lockdown. With 33% people allowed to come to work, they say it's impossible to check every car. But with no checks and many taking the chance and venturing out, is the lockdown being enforced as strictly as it should be? And is the police force fatigued and tired with its own men also being infected by the coronavirus? In Mumbai, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
And of course, you will see the most number of crowds out in the densely packed settlements of Mumbai, especially Dharavi. Now, Dharavi has been in the news for a very high number of infections. But look at the video that we're just about to play you, which my colleague Pooja shot just a day ago, where there are just dozens and dozens of people out shopping, buying food, vegetables, all of that. Again, no clear indication as to whether there is any real strict either enforcing of the lockdown or those who are actually in Dharavi following it. Again, this is not to necessarily target them, because again, Dharavi is a very difficult place to live under a lockdown for any period of time. But this is what it is. This is where we are right now. And this is what a resident of Dharavi told Pooja.
25,000 से ज़्यादा लोग यहाँ पे रोज़ खड़े रहते हैं सुबह से शाम तक. ना पुलिस आती है. पुलिस को तो बोल नहीं सकते, क्योंकि आज पुलिस में इतने लोग क्वारंटाइन हो गए हैं कि कोई उसका आंकड़ा नहीं है. और धारावी में जो डॉक्टर लोग आते हैं चेकिंग के लिए, कि हर घर में जाएंगे, हर घर में आते हैं, लेकिन हमें तो कोई दिखाई नहीं देता. यहाँ के लोगों को किसी ने देखा नहीं है कि कोई चेकिंग के लिए आया. ये हमारे 40 के लड़के लोग हैं, ये खुद मारते हैं, सब कुछ खुद करते हैं. हम खुद मशीन किसी ने दिया है, लेके आके काम कर रहे हैं.
Okay, so that was Dharavi. Now the other image or images that you will see as you travel across Mumbai are crowds of migrants, because they are still making their way out of the city. And that's again adding to this sense of crowds and people out on the streets. So this is again just video that's been shot today of queues of migrants who are on foot or bus or whatever means they can find, trying to get back home. And all of this has meant that the streets of the city appear much more alive than what one would imagine in a lockdown. But officially, remember, the government keeps insisting that they want the lockdown to continue. Remember, tomorrow is, in a sense, the last day of the latest round of lockdown. But this is what a senior minister in the government, as leader of the Shiv Sena, told my colleague Saurabh.
महाराष्ट्र में मुंबई, पुणे और जो बड़े शहर हैं उनको और इंतज़ार करना होगा।
बिल्कुल, ये देखने में आया है। और ये जो ग्रोथ रेट है, जिस तरह से रफ्तार बढ़ रही है, इसको देखते हुए ये बड़े शहर मुंबई, पुणे, ठाणे, मालेगांव, औरंगाबाद ऐसे शहरों में लॉकडाउन और ज़्यादा बढ़ सकता है, बढ़ाना ही पड़ेगा, ऐसी आज की स्थिति है। क्योंकि लोगों का जो स्वास्थ्य है, इसकी तरफ राज्य सरकार का सबसे ज़्यादा ध्यान है।
All right, joining me tonight on the show, I have Priyanka Chaturvedi, spokesperson Shiv Sena, with us. Shaina NC of the BJP is with us. Sanjay Nagral of Jaslok Hospital is with us. Priyanka Chaturvedi, explain to us what exactly is going on in Mumbai. Is there really a lockdown or not? Because as I just mentioned, just look at the street behind me, look around you, there doesn't seem to be any evidence of it.
So firstly, Mr. Chen, thank you so much. It's been a long time since I came on your show, so thank you so much for having me on your show. Secondly, I'm not here to get into a debate between the Congress, Shiv Sena, BJP, NCP, etc. Because I was categorically told that this is not going to be a discussion about us versus them. Thirdly, I can tell you the picture of what Mumbai is doing and what Maharashtra is doing. Allow me to complete, Mr. Jain.
Yeah.
So as far as
Yes.
Mumbai is
Priyanka.
concerned and the lockdown is concerned, you and I both would be aware that it has to be equal participation of the government as well as the people of the city. You must understand, Mumbai is one of the most densely populated cities in the world, with 73,000 people per square mile. Dharavi, which you were discussing about, has about 580,000 people per square mile. That is the numbers that we are talking. Compare it to a New York City with 26,000 people per square mile.
But it's not just
so that
Dharavi.
is what we are grappling with. Please allow me to complete. Allow me to complete. So there were three points that you touched upon.
Sure,
One was Dharavi, about people's movement, and third was the migrant movement. First, as far as people's movement is concerned, it has to be equal responsibility sharing of the state government as well as the people of the city. We have been time and time again, the Chief Minister has been engaging with the people directly and asking them to stay at homes. Every single message that goes out, every single hoarding that you would see in Mumbai speaks about staying at home and the need for reducing person-to-person interaction and engagement. The law and order...
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But can I just ask you this? Can I ask you this, Priyanka, that I understand that it can't be a success without people cooperating. But as someone who's a Mumbaiker, as someone who's part of a party that's in government, are you worried at what you're seeing yourself on the streets? Are you concerned that people aren't taking it seriously?
So here's my point, and that is why I keep repeating this, that governments can ensure and enforce law and order. It is for the people also to understand that every time they're stepping out and bypassing these lockdown norms, they are doing a huge disservice as the residents of a city to a lockdown call that has come from the Chief Minister, from the Prime Minister of this country. Prime Minister has repeatedly made this request as much as the Chief Minister of Maharashtra has done. So clearly, it has to be people's participation.
Right.
Secondly, with regards to migrant movement, let's be very clear. This city is made up of its migrants. And migrants have been pretty cooperative so far, with 16,000 camps for the migrants, meals provided to them. They are bound to get
absolutely.
This is the third phase of the lockdown. So you are going to see unfortunate scenes which we are trying to curb. We are trying to ensure that there is smooth transition. If they wish to go back home, we will help them, we will support them. Chief Minister again has engaged with them.
Okay, Shaina, you know, fair enough. I think Priyanka's got a point where she says people have to participate. But at the same time, as we were just observing, that the number of police nakas that are meant to enforce the lockdown, largely, and this is anecdotal by the way, it's not like we've done some huge scientific survey, but anecdotally they do largely seem to be unmanned. It's almost as if the police have given up.
No, let me not start by critiquing Srinivas, because genuinely, to man a city like Mumbai, the density and the population in itself is a Herculean task. Having said that, lockdown 1, 2, 3 has been sufficient time for us to get our act together vis-a-vis infrastructure. Now we talk about Dharavi. The unfortunate situation is on ground, whether it's tracing, testing or treatment, and the surgeon on the show would probably be better equipped to explain what the lacunas in the system are. We talk about migrants. Yes, migrants make up the backbone of the state. Forget Mumbai. I mean, we've had contribution of them in the labor force, but the unfortunate part is that when you send them back to their home state, there has to be a coordination from state to state. We cannot just pack them in buses with no social distancing and then drop them off on the outskirts of Maharashtra, whether it's Chhattisgarh or anywhere else, and say we've done our job. So I think there are lots of areas which need to be looked into. I'm sure that the government has realized where the flaws are, and nobody was ever prepared for COVID or for Corona. So it has to be the collective consciousness of citizens, where citizens understand that if it's not urgent, then we need to adhere to norms, whether it's travel or, for that matter, as you said, you're talking about random checks. I think we as citizens need to know what our responsibility is as well.
No, but China, at the same time, isn't the government, I'm talking now about the centre, also adding to the confusion? Because it's not clear, is the lockdown partly lifted? What you say, 33% people can go to work? Who's monitoring whether the people are out on the road? In fact, so many of them driving past us now. Are they part of that 33%? Are they not? So has it also been a series of confusing signals from New Delhi?
No, I think the MHA had made it very clear, and especially when the Prime Minister was dialoguing with chief ministers of all states, where not just Maharashtra, the state you are in right now, even going to the extent of appreciating a state like Rajasthan or Orissa, which seem to be more equipped than we are. And they're not necessarily BJP states, so this is not about BJP, Congress or Shiv Sena or any of that. But I think what we need to really understand is that this time which has lapsed, yes, people have cooperated, but there is a certain sense of anxiety where there needs to be clarification even coming from the state government vis-a-vis who should be working, when they should be working, which is out now. But I think awareness and repeatedly saying this so that there is no grey area. And as far as infrastructure is concerned, medical health, we are way behind other states, whether it's beds and that.
We'll come into that in just a second. We'll come into that in just a second. But Dr. Nagral, as a medical professional, this worries you, yes, when you see people out and about almost behaving as if there's no lockdown, because then the consequences are felt by hospitals, by medical workers.
Yeah, so Vasu, if you're trying to make a connection between what you are saying is a relatively lax version of a lockdown and the number of cases that we are seeing in Mumbai, that needs a study. That needs study. But one thing is very clear, that the pockets that we have seen in Mumbai, where the large number of cases have come from, are pockets where people are living together. So it's the slum pockets, whether it's a Kolivada. So it's nothing much to do, in my view, with the slight laxity of the lockdown, as you put it. Of course, the fact that we seem to be peaking now, and this is not the time, therefore, for people to come together. Social distancing is important, but it has been said time and again, and you know it, that in Mumbai slums, social distancing is sort of a bit of a, you can say, a cruel joke to talk about social distancing.
Sure.
Unfortunately.
No, that's fair enough. In fact, we have with us MC Altaf and Tony Sebastian. They're from Dharavi. They're part of the many rappers collectives in Dharavi. Thank you so much for being on the show. You actually made a video you actually made a video about staying safe and staying at home. I'm not sure how many people are actually listening to that or following that video, but let's play a clip of that video before we come to you guys.
जल्दी सारे लोग बस विश्वास रखो स्लम्स में है केस ज्यादा बात समझो उम्मीद है सब ठीक होगा वापस उम्मीद है तुम सब हो सलामत भरोसा रखो डॉक्टर्स के काम पे भरोसा रखो ऊपर वाला साथ है क्या लोग अपने सेफ घरी बसून सर्वे आपल्या वाचवा देश धारावी में बढ़ते जा रहे इसके केस फैलने से रोको स्टे होम स्टे सेफ पूरे देश में बढ़ रहा केस स्टे होम स्टे सेफ अपने शहर में बढ़ रहा केस स्टे होम स्टे सेफ धारावी में बढ़ रहा केस स्टे होम स्टे सेफ स्टे होम स्टे सेफ स्टे होम सेफ
That was pretty cool. Altaf and Sebastian, are people in Dharavi or anywhere else, are they actually staying home and staying safe?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
हाँ तो वही अभी
Yes, I can hear you.
हम लोग वो ये ट्रैक बनाने के पीछे का मकसद हम लोग का यही था कि हम लोगों को मैसेज दे के स्टे होम स्टे सेफ सबको रहना चाहिए और इसमें से कि कुछ लोग हैं जैसे मेरे रिलेटिव्स थे और मेरे फैमिली वाले लोग हैं वो लोग सब सही में ट्रैक के साथ रिलेट कर रहे हैं और मेरे जो दोस्त लोग हैं वो लोग भी और अभी मुझे पता नहीं कि धारावी में सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग करना इतना आसान है भी क्या नहीं लेकिन फिर भी लोग ट्राई कर रहे हैं और अंदर रहने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं
तो कोशिश कर रहे हैं मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि जैसे लोग जाते हैं वहाँ हमारी मीडिया भी टीम जाती है वहाँ बहुत सारी भीड़ लगी रहती है तो ऐसा लगता है कि कोई उसको फॉलो नहीं कर रहा आप कह रहे हैं कि लोग पूरी तरह से जितना हद तक छोटे छोटे घरों में रहते हैं कोशिश अपना ज़रूर कर रहे हैं
हाँ कोशिश कर पा रहे लेकिन अगर कुछ चीज़ों के लिए मतलब जैसे ज़रूरत की चीज़ चाहिए रहती है उन सब के लिए लोग मतलब नहीं रह पा रहे घर पे गर्दी तो हो रही है हम लोग भी देख रहे हैं कि कुछ जगह पे जिधर ज्यादा ही जरूरत की चीजें नहीं मिल रही है और अचानक फिर वो चीज अवेलेबल हो रही है तो उस चीज के लिए गर्दी हो रही है
तो क्या एक ये भी है लेकिन लोग थक भी गए हैं मतलब अब ऑलमोस्ट 50 दिन से ज़्यादा हो गए हैं गर्मी भी बढ़ रही है तो क्या ये भी हो गया कि लोग अब कह रहे हैं भाई हम कितने दिनों तक और घंटों तक ऐसे ही घर में बैठ सकते हैं
अभी फिलहाल सिचुएशन ऐसा है कि ऐसा सिचुएशन हम लोग ने पहले देखा ही नहीं था कि ऐसा लॉकडाउन होता है अपने को घर पे रहना पड़ेगा तो कोई कुछ टर्म्स है सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग ये सब कुछ कभी हम लोग ने ये टर्म्स को हम लोग की लाइफ में कभी आया ही नहीं तो अभी ये जो सडनली जो चेंज है हम लोग को लगा एक 20 डेज रहेगा 25 डेज रहेगा अभी ये एक्सटेंड होते होते बहुत सारा बिजनेस है जो अफेक्ट हो रहा है बहुत सारा स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्रीज है जो अफेक्ट हो रहा है काफी लेबर्स भी अफेक्ट हो रहे हैं तो कुछ तो चीज के लिए मतलब लोग को बाहर आना पड़ता है कभी कभी कुछ लोग हैं जो खाना बांटते हैं धारावी में आके कुछ सप्लाईज बांटते हैं तो वो टाइम में भी लोग गर्दी जमा हो जाता है फिर
सही बात है ओके Priyanka, now we're just heading into now the end of the latest chapter of the lockdown and we're not sure what's going to come next. Come back to you, Priyanka, in just a second. But Shaina, let me then ask you that question. What do you think now ought to happen? Because increasingly there's a view that you just can't keep locking down. You're hurting millions of livelihoods, you're hurting big and small business. Is it time to now just open up, to accept, as the government itself is now saying, that you have to learn to live with the virus?
Yeah, I think there is a certain truth there that we need to learn to live with the virus, but the lockdown gave the state governments the time to prepare themselves. And unfortunately, that preparedness, whether it's lack of coordination or lack of infrastructure, or just basically not being able to contain a city like Mumbai is only one of the many problems. But look at the way the migrant issue has also been handled. It's not necessarily something that we should look at as a positive, especially because of the way, they were just left in between and then said, now once you're outside Maharashtra, fend for yourself. That's not a solution. I would want to say, yes, the onus is on the people of the city to understand social distancing, but it's pretty much a joke in slums. So, having said that, if you have 500 people...
But Shaina, you keep talking of migrants. I didn't want to get into this, but really...
No, can I just say
I
something?
mean, with the migrants... Sorry, is that... Priyanka, is that you?
Yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. I would want to say a couple of things here. Though
Okay.
I did not
Yes.
want to make this about
Okay.
us versus them, our government versus
Okay,
some
come-
other
okay, come in.
political
Fine.
party government. Something that Shaina mentioned about migrants, that kind of got to me simply because she needs to understand that we have seen similar scenes in Surat. We have seen similar scenes in Hyderabad. We have seen similar scenes in Bangalore. We have seen similar scenes in Delhi. Please understand, the migrant issue is not just a state issue, it's a badly planned issue from the center because we had a lockdown announced within 4 hours of the Prime Minister speaking to the people of this country. People did not get a chance to move out of their states, move out to their homes, go back homes. And this is something that the Maharashtra government requested, that the trains should continue for a bit so that the migrants who wish to leave can leave and we can handle them. Now, please, we must understand this is a very unfortunate politicization because Maharashtra has gone out of its way to ensure that nobody goes hungry. And when this kind of an accusation comes from a political party, while they keep talking about not
not
wanting
an
to make this
accusation
about politics,
to start
but
with.
politicizing it,
It
is
is a
unfortunate.
generic
You must
comment
understand
on how
whether it is Mumbai,
migrants have
whether it
had-
is
Okay,
Mumbai,
I don't want
whether
to.
it
Let's
is
not get this.
Ahmedabad, any
Let's
other
just not.
state
Let's not
are
make this.
also
Let's not make this
migrant-ridden
political.
Oh, come on. You're now
Okay,
telling
let's
me
not
not
make
to
this
make
political.
this political while we were quietly and calmly listening
I'm not telling-
to this being politicized.
Not at all. I was actually pushing back with a question when you
What
wanted to jump in.
unnecessary aggression
But I'm just.
at a time
It's a
when we
request
should be
to
having a
both of you.
conversation.
It's a request to both of you. I'm not taking sides. But let me just ask Dr. Nagral that Dr. Nagral, look, the whole point of a lockdown in any part of the world is that this is not the solution. It's just a pause button so that we build up enough health capacity
Yes, absolutely.
for when you lift the lockdown and when the virus comes. But Dr. Nagral, in your view, have we managed to do that? Where were we when we started the lockdown and where are we today? Are we in any better place?
Yeah, so, you're absolutely right that the plan was to use the lockdown to ramp up the healthcare facilities. So I must say this, that Mumbai has been known for a relatively better public healthcare system compared to many other cities. It's got a big private sector, pretty professional. What we have seen is we've seen a lot of good intention, hard work, a lot of centers being put up by the MCGM. But what we are not seeing, and which is very worrying and disappointing, is coordination. What we are not, Vasu, in the last 1 month, we have had at least 12 or 15 reports in newspapers of people going from hospital to hospital, 5, 6 hospitals and dying.
Yes.
No, that's tragic.
And Dr. Please mention what happened in Sion Hospital and KEM as well.
Well,
Oh my God. Oh my God.
One second,
I mean,
one second.
Talking of Sion and
It's
Okay,
not
one second.
something I want to
Come on.
see
No, I
This is
would-
again becoming
this
too
is-
meme.
I don't know.
Okay, please.
I don't know why I'm participating in this discussion. I thought we
Please,
could have
can
a
we just let
constructive
Dr.
debate,
Nagral
but it
finish?
doesn't seem to be going that way.
Can I say?
Yes. Let
questions
Dr.
need to
Nagral
address
finish.
it.
Let Dr. Nagral finish.
Yeah. So
Okay,
so I
let's just get.
wanted to say
If Dr. Nagral,
that-
if you made your point, yes.
Yeah. So let me finish by
Yeah,
saying that the
Quickly,
time
yes.
Across political parties to understand the severity of the situation. We need more political will, and I'll tell you where we need that political will. We need the entire healthcare sector, including the private sector, now to be brought.
That's true. I think
capacity.
everyone needs to come together. Political parties, private and public. Can I just end by asking Tony and Altaf, आप इतने patiently सुन रहे हैं सबको, क्या आप एक थोड़ा सा end करना चाहेंगे आपके रैप के साथ? क्या मैसेज आज आप मुंबई को देंगे थ्रू योर रैप?
जरूर हम लोग जो स्टे होम स्टे सेफ गाना बना है वो आज हम लोग मुंबई के लोगों के लिए लाइव परफॉर्म करना चाहते हैं।
अभी सब लोग काफी कंफ्यूज स्टेट में है। मेरे को लगता है अभी सब लोग को एक स्मार्टली सोचना चाहिए, समझना चाहिए एक दूसरे को। ये हाल था।
पहली बीमारी वायरस कोविड-19 नाम इसका, सुना मैंने नहीं मिला है इलाज नुस्खा, पर कुछ तरीके जिससे हो सकता बचाव इसका। हाथ साफ रखो, घर पे रहना काम अपना, और चाहता मदद तुमसे पुलिस वाला आज अपना। डॉक्टर्स करे सैक्रिफाइस परिवार उनका, तो आ जाओ करते हैं सपोर्ट इनको। सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग मतलब दूरी रखो, मास्क पहन के बात करो, घर पे रह के काम करो, रास्ते को साफ रखो, थूकना अवॉइड करो, जीत लेंगे जल्दी सारे लोग, बस विश्वास रखो। स्लम्स में है केस ज्यादा बात समझो, उम्मीद है सब ठीक होगा वापस, उम्मीद है तुम सब हो सलामत। भरोसा रखो डॉक्टर्स के काम पे, भरोसा रखो ऊपर वाला साथ है। क्या लोग अपने सेफ, क्या लोग अपने सेफ, घरी बसून सर्वे आपल्या वाचवा देश धारावी में बढ़ते जा रहे इसके केस फैलने से रोको स्टे होम स्टे सेफ
पूरे देश में बढ़ रहा है केस
स्टे होम स्टे सेफ
अपने शहर में बढ़ रहा है केस
स्टे होम स्टे सेफ
धारावी में बढ़ रहा है केस
स्टे होम स्टे सेफ
स्टे होम स्टे सेफ स्टे होम स्टे सेफ पूरे देश में बढ़ रहा है केस
स्टे होम स्टे
चलो,
सेफ
अपने शहर में बढ़ रहा है केस
स्टे होम स्टे सेफ
धारावी में बढ़ रहा है केस
Thank you.
ये
Thank-
stay home stay safe
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, Sebastian and Altaf. I hope Mumbai is listening to you tonight. Thank you all so much for joining us. That's it on Reality Check. You've been a great panel. Thanks for watching. Good night.